Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Kim with Creative Crafticality, and today I will be working on a new fall journal. This was a journal that I had started last year. Actually did a swap with my friend Crystal over at Happy to Plan, and then it just didn't work out after I did the unboxing. We never released our videos, so I wanted to go ahead and release this. I still have the journal and I want to finish it up and get it in my Etsy shop this year. So yeah, that's what we're doing today. So in this video, I am going to be doing a little process. I'm going to start making the journal. I went through all the items that she sent me. There were a lot of items, and so it took me a while to decide what I wanted to do with it. And there were lots of options as far as fabrics and colorways and things like that. But I decided to use this really pretty fall fabric that she sent, and I'm going to use that for the cover. And I just figured out how I was going to do the cover. I'm going to be using 2 lunch sacks as the base. I've done this before. I have a tutorial for it for my Halloween journals, and I'll put that link down below as well if you want to see how I made a couple different Halloween journals out of Dollar Tree lunch sacks. These are just regular old brown lunch sacks, the standard size. And then also for the cover, I picked out this doily that she gave me and the fabric, of course. And then I think I'm going to use this paper for the inside. I'm going to use this as the showing side on it. And I have a little bit of this left that I'll use somewhere else in the book. So originally I was going to just have the fabric sewn onto this paper, which you could totally do that as a cover, but I decided to add in the element of the paper sack. That makes it so that you can have a pocket at the top to put items and also a pocket on the inside. So just follow along. Let me go through the rest of the things here, and then I will show you how I make this cover. I picked out, I'm going to use this ribbon and this lace. She wrapped up some of the stuff with this, so I'm going to use those 2. And then, of course, I'll put this tassel that she made, a beautiful tassel for the side of the journal. And then I'm going to use this, it's like an embroidered napkin. I'm going to save this part for another journal for something else, but I'm going to cut off some of this trim to use probably on the cover. But it's perfect to go with the fabric. And then I'm going to use this lace inside the journal, and then also some of this really pretty tulle. As far as the papers and the book pages, I'm going to use this one, and then this one, and this one. So I'll just use these as like signature covers or basic items throughout the book. And then in my signatures, I'll just kind of go through these papers that I picked out. Well, there's a couple different envelope or napkins that I will use, either cut them out for embellishments or use them as a page in the book. I do that a lot. And then there's this really pretty one. And then I'm going to use this in my book for pages. And then there's some vintage grid paper, ledger paper, manuscript paper. And then here's some notebook paper. Sorry about that. I'm sure that he sees a squirrel outside. We have a German short hair, and the squirrels really drive him nuts in the backyard. This really cool magazine page. That one is really cool. Most of these I'll just fold and cut down for the inside pages, or I may use on embellishments, but I just thought these would go really well with the book. That one, that's Christmas on that side. And also, this is more paper. So there's this glitter orange, plaid. Here's a nice pumpkin vellum. And then stationery leaf paper. So that's what I'm going to be using. And first off, I'll just go ahead and start working on my cover, and then I'll work into putting the signatures together. And that's probably what I'll get to today. I'll just see at the end how long my filming is here. And then probably I may do like an embellishments and tags kind of video for this. And then we'll do a final flip through of all of these. I started with the 2 lunch sacks and used my fabric, laid it over the top so I could see where I needed to chop it off at the top, because my fabric wasn't as tall as the lunch sack. And then now I am measuring my fabric to see where I need to cut it to cover the front cover of my journal. I folded it and creased it so I had a straight line there, and then I'm just cutting up to the top, and that will be the piece that will be sewn onto the front cover of my journal. I'm just going to put some paper clips on it to keep it on while I work on the other side, or the back cover. And I'll just do the same with my fabric, lay it over the top of the lunch sack and measure where I need to cut it. I'm just folding it again and then cutting it up the length. Now I have this paper. I chose the plaid to go on the inside. So I'm laying it out so I can mark it and then cut it to fit inside that part of the lunch sack. It's going to nestle underneath the bottom of the lunch sack where it folds up. That way I'll be able to make a pocket there at the bottom of the page. And then I'll use the other part of the paper in the back. And now I'm going to choose some paper to make for the pockets. I just want to cover the bottom of the lunch sack there. So I'm going to cut a piece of this dark brown. And I'll cut a second piece for the back. Now I want to decorate these pieces, so I cut off a piece of that tulle that has the metallic leaves on it. So I'm going to fussy cut these out, and I'll cut 2 for the front and the back cover. Now I'm going to carry the fabric from the front and back covers into this inside cover and just fussy cut some of the flowers from the fabric. So for the front cover, or the inside of the front cover, I chose to use these two flowers here. And then I'm going to leave the butterfly on there as well. I'll nestle the leaf right underneath. I also want a contrasting color, or like a lighter rust color, so I'm going to cut a piece from this rust paper, and I'll cut two pieces, one for the front and one for the back. Before I glue those fabric pieces down though, I will take them over to the sewing machine and sew them first. But for now I just wanted to get them cut and ready. So for the back, I decided I wanted to use some of the smaller flowers on there. So I'm just laying it down to see where I needed to cut it. I really liked the orange flowers, so those are what I'm cutting out. And then I kept one of the little yellow flowers and one of the white flowers. Now to attach my two covers together, I have this piece that Crystal included. It's an orange denim. It's just a little piece, so I'm cutting it into three little pieces that are even here. They're probably about 1.25 inches wide by maybe 3 inches long. But this is what I'm going to be using as my spine, and it will make a partial exposed spine. I'm trying to see here if I wanted to use some paper on the inside, but ultimately I just used the fabric. So now I'm just paper clipping the pieces on, and I apologize for not being able to see there, but I'm just fixing my paper clips. Before I go to the sewing machine, I wanted to clip out a little half circle at the top because those are going to be pockets on the inside. And I just stuck some little dots of glue on those papers just to hold them together. I will be sewing around the edges, but you can do this all with just glue. So you could have, I'm gluing these as well just to hold them, just to make them a little more secure when I'm sewing them, but you definitely could just glue every piece and not even mess with the sewing machine. I just like the sewing machine because it just adds more texture to it. But I do definitely like to add little dots just so it doesn't move around when I use my sewing machine and then I end up having to take it apart. I didn't want that to happen. I'll do the same with the fabric as well. You do want to let them dry, any of the pieces that you add glue to, because you definitely don't want the glue getting into your needle on your sewing machine. I'm only putting glue on the sides and the bottom because I do want there to be a pocket at the top on the outside of the cover and on the inside. Now I'm fitting my pieces of the denim in between, putting a little bit of glue to hold those in. And I'll do that to all 3 of my pieces. I moved the middle one down just so that the space in between all 3 were even, and then put my fabric back down over the top. Now I'm just going to figure out how I'm going to decorate the front cover. So I have this trim that Crystal included in my kit. So I'll just go ahead and dot and tack those down with the glue, but I will go back with the sewing machine, as I said. I want to add this doily on the front, so I'm going to cut 2 of the sides down. And just have a little corner, or not, yeah, it's just, it'll be a little piece in the corner of my cover. And I'll put a little bit of glue there. Now, I love this trim that's on the side of this embroidered napkin, so I'm cutting it off here, and then I do take this, I use a seam ripper and peel or take off the fabric that's on it. I didn't show it on camera, but I did do that because I didn't like the look of the fabric on there. And it was pretty easy just to use a seam ripper and take it apart. But that piece will go along the edge, the open edge of the cover, so on the front and on the back. So now I'm at my sewing machine. First I did a zigzag stitch on the pockets. I usually use the number, well, I have a Brother sewing machine, so it's the number 4 stitch, which is the bigger zigzag, and I put it to a 3.5 inch length, not 3.5 inches, but 3.5 length, whatever that is in sewing machine measurements. So I did the pockets, and then now I'm stitching the cover. So I started on the top right, and then I'm just going to go down the right side, down the bottom, and then go up on the left side. So that leaves the top to have all the pockets. The pocket with the fabric, and then the pocket with the lunch sack, and also the pocket on the inside with the paper. So I do that to the back and the front. And as I said, I did let everything dry before I brought this over to my sewing machine. I always just use a standard needle, so nothing special here. Just your regular standard sewing needle with regular thread. Now I'm going to put my pockets in. So I'm just going to glue these down. And I did use just glue on the 3 sides, so there's multiple pockets within the pocket. So the paper will make a pocket as well as the bottom of the lunch sack. And then now I'm going to glue the leaves down. On the left side or inside front cover, I put the leaf down first, and then I layered it with the fabric. So with fabric, I just like to do little dots, and then I smush it around with my finger Or if it's a thicker fabric like this, you don't need to smush it around. At first I put the leaf down in the back, but I decided after laying down the fabric that I wanted that to be on top, so I put my fabric down first. I did smush this. With this fabric, it was thick enough, you really didn't need to do it, but I did that anyway. And then I put my leaf down. Alrighty. So to finish this off, I'm going to glue on my trim. I decided just to glue it on. I could have also sewn it, but since I already sewed the book together, I decided to just glue it down. The back was a little bit more tedious to glue down because some of the trim had been folded while it was sewn to the fabric, the original fabric. So I had to put a little bit of glue down at a time and then stick down the piece because I wanted to be able to see all of that trim. So then I put a little bit more down, kind of had to fold the pieces out and hold them down there. So then I'll just trim it off on all the edges to make them even. And then I just put my tassel on the front, and then that was it. So that is it for this video, guys. Come back to the next one. I will be working on my signatures and getting them sewn into the cover that we just made. Thank you for watching. Give my video a thumbs up, leave me a comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you again next time. This is Kim with Creative Crafticality. Bye. God bless.